In our Torah portion, this Shabbat, there is this whole idea of reconnecting. It's really a portion about reconnecting. There's a family, Joseph's family, Jacob's family, who are so disconnected from each other. I mean, it's horrible. And in fact, the disconnect, the dysfunctionality of the family takes up more space in the Torah than any other piece of the Torah. I mean, that's what makes the story so interesting. We know more about Jacob and his sons and Joseph and his life than anybody else. We don't know very much about Abraham. We know nothing about Isaac. We know a little bit more about Jacob and then Joseph. And we don't have any more of that in the book of Genesis. And what happens is, and I don't want to go through the entire story, it's a story of people disconnecting, of families not getting along, and families having secrets, and families having a desire to be vindictive to each other. And it's just really a horrible story. But this week, there is a sense of reconciliation. And there's this beautiful moment when Jacob's brothers, who, unbeknownst to them, are standing in front of Joseph pleading for their lives. And Joseph turns to them and says, "I'm your brother Joseph. We are brothers. We have a sense of connection to each other." It's just an incredible part of the Torah. It doesn't need interpretation. And then you have, later on in the portion, the meeting of Joseph, who was supposed to be dead, with his father Jacob. And it's just an incredible story. And when I think about those kinds of relationships, I think so much about synagogues. Because synagogues are all about relationships, all about people connecting, knowing each other. Generally in our congregation, people like each other. Maybe secretly they don't like each other, but they're too polite to say it out loud. But generally, we're a congregation where it's all about relationships, about memories. And I'm standing here and, I'm going into my countdown. It'll be 5 months until I retire. And, one of the things that I'm thinking about are the memories that I have. And I'm sure the congregation is going to find a wonderful rabbi to follow me, and wonderful things will happen. But there's one thing that kind of concerns me, and every rabbi who ends up the transition, there are things that I know that other people will never know, especially about people who many of you know who are part of this congregation. I'm thinking about people. I'm looking around the congregation this evening and thinking about people that I've seen in the congregation over the years who are no longer here, especially people who founded the congregation. I'm thinking about Paul Ullman Jr., who I often speak about, the first president of the congregation, who was incredibly dapper and charming and really an amazing man, incredibly politically conservative, but very gentle in talking with other people. He would come on Friday nights, and it would mean something to him to be in the synagogue because he felt a sense of ownership of it. Or I think about, so many people, Kenny Baum, a blessed memory, not a loving shul goer, not someone who loved to come to synagogue, but when he came into the synagogue, he had an incredible sense of reverence for what was going on here, and he would say to me, "Rabbi, you're doing a good job." From Kenny, that was something. He would say, it wouldn't motivate me to come every week, but you still like it. And so where am I going here? This evening, Gail and Bill Ween are sponsor the Oneg Shabbat in memory of Sheila Ween, a blessed memory. And I have to share with you, because some of you know Sheila, many of you didn't know Sheila. And Sheila was the first Rebbitzin of the New Reform Temple. When Rabbi Davis came at the very beginning of the congregation in 1967, she was the Rebbitzin. And interestingly enough, they divorced, and She eventually came back to the congregation and she was an incredible person in terms of when Sheila walked in, there was style, there was grace. She originally was a dancer. She was an artist. She was a business person. She was so incredibly creative. And what makes it so interesting to me is that she would often come she was one of our first Torah study people. And I'd be sitting on the couch and she'd be sitting there and she'd be rolling her eyes at some of the things that I said. Or she'd say, she called me Alan. Alan, I'll tell you about that later. She represented to me such a connection to what the New Reformed Temple was about, and she kept me in line. She would say to me, Alan, this is what's really going on. Or when I didn't understand a family relationship, she said, explain to me, Sheila, the family tree here. She'd explain it. I wouldn't remember 2 seconds later, but I knew someone actually understood. And she knew when to say to me, Alan, you did that wrong. You should have kept your mouth shut. I mean, the things that she would do, and she was someone who was a mentor. I know she was a great friend of Jane, my wife, who she also gave Jane guidance, and she kind of said, okay, I'm experienced. I know what you should be doing. Do it. These are the memories. These are the people. The New Reformed Temple isn't a building. It's these people who make us up. And I will continue to talk about them, and I just pray that their memories will always be part of the congregation. It's really hard because memory is so fleeting. I don't even remember my own life, let alone the lives of others. I mean, I don't know about you, the things that I want to remember of, say, my kids growing up, I don't remember them anymore, and it really troubles me that I don't remember them. We don't remember everything. But these are the people who are what we are about. They set the tone of the congregation. And I believe that one of the reasons why, and the New Reformed Temple has had all kinds of ups and downs in its history, the reason why it has been sustained and has ultimately triumphed is because of these wonderful people who I honor all the time, who I think about all the time. And I think we should pray for them all the time, because without them, this wouldn't have happened. Without Paul Ullman and his wife, Barbara, without Kenny, and who at the very beginning, and ultimately Ann, of course, becoming such an incredible supporter of our congregation, especially of Becky and Nathan Bliss, without Sheila, without so many other people that have been part of this congregation, it wouldn't exist. We're about relationships. We're about saying to each other, I'm Joseph, we're family. We care for each other. So that's my sharing this evening. It's about family. It's about caring. It's about memories. And we have to keep those memories real, because that's who we are. And a synagogue that is able to keep those memories, to preserve them, they're strong congregations. And congregations that are not able to hold on to those memories will not be sustained. It's up to all of us, especially all of you, to make sure that those people are remembered, their spirit is remembered, their ideals are remembered, their personas are remembered. I can't share with you my visual idea of them sitting out there, but many of you know them, and I know those of you who knew them love them, and those of you who didn't know them, I feel sorry for you. Shabbat Shalom.